CA just dropped a campaign Let's Play for the Chaos Dwarfs, and we're going to pick out all the units and unit cards that we see. First off here, we see a bunch of unit cards in this battle. We've got Astrogoth Iron Hand, and then this thing is the big Dragon Ogre style Bull Centaur, a single entity hero, and then we've got the Bull Centaur Cavalry, which pretty much look like Beastmen Centaurs on steroids. And then we've got some regular old Chaos Dwarf Warriors, these ones with great weapons, I believe. And then we've got these Orc Laborers, another cheap infantry. You are going to notice some of the unit cards change later in this video, so I guess some of these are just placeholders. And then we've got some Goblin Laborers and Chaos Dwarf Blunderbusses, who are of course a ranged infantry. And if we scoot on over to the side here, we can see a unit card for Goblin Laborers, and they look absolutely terrible. No armor, no real stats of any kind. There is 180 of them in the unit though, and they do have some kind of ability down there. So Peasant Mob are probably excited because they now might not be the worst infantry in the game. A little further along and we get a look at Orc Laborers, who are considerably better. They at least have armor-piercing damage, which is nice, and more leadership than those Gobbos, and there is 140 of them. So at least one decent chaff unit with some cheap armor-piercing as well. A little further along here we see Chaos Dwarfs with great weapons. Pretty much the same as the Dwarfs, Dwarf Warriors with great weapons, nice heavy armor, nice armor-piercing damage. They also seem to have a fire resistance ability and another ability there, which I guess is called Contempt, as can be seen at the top of the unit card, whatever that does. So some typical Dwarf infantry we'd expect there, and then we have some Blunderbusses, Chaos Dwarf Blunderbusses to be precise. Short range as one would expect from a Blunderbuss, but some nice missile strength, armor-piercing, also has... what is that ability? Suppression, I think. That should be a speed reduction by 30%, so that's a pretty nice addition. They're also not too bad in melee, especially having that armor, so they should survive pretty well. And I've just noticed that the shield symbol looks a little different. It kind of looks like it's got an arrow in it or something, and there is a bronze version of this as well, I've noticed. So maybe they've just changed the icon, or maybe they've changed how shields work in some way. Either way, the Blunderbusses seem to have some kind of shield. So there's a bunch of infantries anyway. Now let's take a look at Astrogoth Iron Hand himself. The big man with his mechy legs. Look at his stats. A nice 60 speed first of all. Lots of armor. Plenty of melee attack, melee defense. A ton of weapon strength, armor piercing, fire and magic damage. A big charge bonus. He's a beast. As for his abilities, we see a fire resistance, a missile resistance, wounds there, that contempt ability, not that we know what it does, immunity to psychology, cascading fire cloak, and a new spell from the lore of Hashut. So he's going to have a mixed lore book by the look of it. And we can see in some of this footage that he has a flamethrower as well as a hammer. So he just looks like an absolute powerhouse, as he does have that spellcasting ability as well. Now onto one of the cavalry units in the Bull Centaur renders, which are, as I mentioned, kind of like Beastmen Centaurs, not just because they look similar, but because they don't have a great amount of armor, but are still capable of some good damage output. They're not terribly fast either at only 62 speed, but they do seem to have a shield and a missile resistance, so that should help them survive. And they seem like more of a melee cavalry than a shock cavalry. They don't have a huge charge bonus. They've got a lot of melee defense. Nice armor-piercing weapon strength, though. Should be able to put out plenty of damage. However, I think maybe that's a ward save there as well, so they've got some stuff going on. Should be a pretty devastating unit. We also get to see one of the spells from the new lore of Hashut, Burning Wrath. This is the one that Astrogoth has. As you can see, a magic missile, lots of damage, good bit of armor piercing in there as well. Spawns a moving vortex, which we do get to see in the gameplay, so that's looking pretty nasty. You can see it here, vortexing away. Looks very cool. And then onto this campaign shot, we see a few things. The Bull Centaur Torok, that Dragon Ogre style hero. And then the Great Taurus, we saw these in the trailer yesterday. I got a video about that if you missed it. It's basically a single entity flying bull. And then we see the Bull Centaur renders that we just learned about. And then we've got the Lamassu, which is another kind of flying bull, except it's more magic-based. Don't know really exactly what that does yet. We also see some Bull Centaur renders with great weapons. And a Bale Taurus. Not exactly sure what the difference is between this one and the other kind of Tauruses. We shall see. We can see some other units here as well. A good old Hell Cannon. That big old beastie from the end of the trailer yesterday. The Kadai Lava Snake Men. Some War Machines, some heroes. Lots of exciting stuff. There's also this charming fellow who looks like a hero. He's got an axe, but also a pistol as well. Maybe some kind of hybrid hero. Then we see a close-up of the Bull Centaur Torok hero, the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth type boy. He's not got a ton of armor, but he's very quick, got some nice combat stats, decent weapon strength, which is armor piercing, and anti-large. So very much just a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth all round, really. Surprising he's got such low armor, though, given that he looks like he's covered in metal, but there you go. We see the recruitment screen here for a second, where we can spy Hobgoblin Sneaky Gits. They've got reasonable melee stats with a bonus versus infantry and poison, as well as a fairly short-range missile attack, but again, poison on that too. It's only got 2 ammo though, so it's kind of like they're a peltast. They charge up to the enemy, throw that in their face, and then charge into them. They also have Vanguard deployment and stalk, so can be pretty sneaky. They've got a couple of abilities we can't really see there, but their downside, they have pretty terrible armor and pretty terrible leadership, so don't expect them to do a ton. We also see the regular Chaos Dwarf Warriors here, very similar to the normal Dwarfs Dwarf Warriors. We've got the Orc and Goblin Laborers and some Hobgoblin Archers, so probably just some cheap typical archers there. Into a battle, we see the Chaos Dwarf Warriors and their stats, as I said, very similar to the regular Dwarfs Dwarf Warriors. A good holding unit, they've got a shield, they've got a charge defense, they've also got that contempt ability and a fire resistance. And the last few random shots, we can see a wizard being recruited here with the options of the Law of Metal, the Law of Fire, the Law of, I guess, the new one, Hashut, and the Law of Death. We also see another Lord option there recruitable, the Overseer, which I guess is the melee generic Lord option. So we've seen quite a lot of the infantry here and a bunch of the monsters and things as well, the cavalry. We're still yet to see, though, the various demon engines and iron demon trains, all the different war machines and artillery that the Chaos Dwarves are going to have, so look forward to seeing what they've got there too. It looks like they've got trains with carriages attached here as well, so that looks like it could get pretty crazy. But there we go, the Chaos Dwarf roster looking pretty damn exciting if you ask me. But how exactly do we expect them to play? Well, from what we've seen so far, there's a good mixture of chaff infantry and more expensive, tougher infantry. What you may have noticed on some of the campaign screens, though, is this little number showing that there are unit caps on the stronger units. So it looks like you're going to need to bring a lot of the chaff first of all, and over time you'll be able to recruit the stronger, better stuff. And I think that's good. I like it when unit caps are implemented in various ways and you can't just bring massive heavy armies early on. I guess you'll be able to increase those caps though as you move through the campaign, and you'll be able to get more and more of the stronger types of units. But it kind of seems like the Chaos Dwarfs have got a bit of everything. They've got some good strong infantry, they've got cheap infantry, they've got cheap armor piercing, they've got cavalry, they've got flying units, they've got artillery and war machines, they've got missile units. Although we haven't seen any kind of longer range missile unit like 150 range or something like that. Maybe they'll be lacking there, but feels overall like they'll be a very flexible faction, not like the regular Dwarfs who pretty much just have to play defensively. The Chaos Dwarfs should be able to play defensively very well with all the artillery. They should be able to play aggressively and offensively with all these monsters and stuff that they can push forward with. Or they should be able to play somewhere in the middle, a little bit of both. I imagine there's going to be some crazy builds to come up with, given all the stuff they have. But yeah, excited to get into it. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Thanks to all the patrons who support this channel. I will see you in the future.